Hi friend, David here from Learn Stage Lighting, and in this video we're going to look at a laser. That's right, the LaserCube. And today I want to take a look, review this product that they sent to me, and share with you a little more about using lasers in a stage lighting show. Because I think, more than anything, lasers are coming into our world of stage lighting more and more every day. And it's become easier than ever before to use lasers to make great lighting and to be part of your show. And so many of you guys saw a previous video that I did with the company X Laser on how to begin with lasers. And it's a really good guide on just the basics of starting with lasers, the legal requirements here in the US, and how to get rolling with something basic like the X Laser Aurora Caliente, which I have behind me, and I'll actually show you in this video. But today I've got a different product, and there's a twist with it. It's actually from a different company called LaserCube. You can see it right here shining on the wall. And if I pick it up here, you can see it's actually this little tiny laser box. Let me shut it off for a minute. It's this little tiny laser. If I take it off its mount, I can show it to you. That fits in the palm of your hand and literally is a 1 watt laser. They actually have a few versions, a 1 watt and a 2 watt. And it's designed, and this is really cool, for ease of use, first and foremost. That's what they designed this thing for out of the box. And so what you get is literally something that you can hold in your hand. And the most interesting part, I think, about it is the ability to control it from multiple types of devices. What do I mean? Well, let's take a look. So I'm just going to go ahead and plug this guy back in. And the LaserCube, there's a series of them, and there's a few of them, and there may be more in the future, work with a piece of software called LaserOS to control them, okay? Now, this is a little bit different. If you know about lasers or you've worked with them in the past, then you know that lasers have kind of been a bear to control for a long time. They don't work, and they're not controlled like normal stage lights because they have a lot more options. They're basically the hybrid between lights and video projectors, in a sense. They're in that middle ground. And so you find that if you control it from a lighting console, like you typically would, you might trigger some gobos, some pan and tilt, and some color. But that's not really enough to be able to work with and to really use the full power of the laser. Let me plug this back in and I'll show you. And so LaserOS, which this laser uses to communicate, is available for Android, PC, and Mac, which is really cool. So you can literally get started with an Android. I've got this tablet here. It's just a Samsung Galaxy Tab A from a few years ago. It's nothing fancy. And I'm going to go ahead, plug in my laser via USB. We'll note that when you buy this thing, when you do get it, and they did send me this unit as a demo, in the box there's a variety of cables for interfacing different phones and different computers, etc. So for this specific tablet, I get the USB-C cable that then goes into my tablet. The connection on the LaserCube itself is micro USB. Now, as LaserOS launches, there's a couple things that we've got to do for safety to get things started. So the first is that on the back of the unit itself, we've got a key switch and a power. So I'll turn that power on. I had it plugged into my computer. And I'll turn that key switch to the on position. There's also a safety switch which is included in the box. There's one that's just hardwired without a switch, and there's a connector that you can also use to build your own switch. We'll then go ahead, and once we've got all the safety measures, we've got it pointed in the proper direction, so it's not going to get in anybody's eyes or touch any cameras, we can open the aperture on the front with the sliding door. Okay? Now, onto the tablet. So I launch LaserOS and I get something that looks like this. You can probably see it. I have a myriad of effects to choose from, and it's really as simple as pressing play here at the bottom, selecting an item, and voila. I see it on my wall, or it's kind of in a demo mode from the start. There are a lot of different options, and I'm able to customize them well. Now, the cool thing about this is that Laser OS, whether you're on a PC, whether you're on a Mac, whether you're on an Android, it kind of follows that same interface of being really simple to control. And if you ever worked with lasers before, you know that making patterns and controlling stuff like this either involves a PC and a bunch of long ILDA cables that look like really old printer cables, or it involves getting really complex with some lighting networking and figuring out how to work all that together. For a lot of cases, for more advanced uses, that makes sense. But if you're just starting with lighting, you want to add a laser to your show, the LaserCube's a really good option because it's really easy to trigger. It's really easy to work with. And so now I want to hop over to my computer and show you some of the patterns and some of the cool things that this laser can do. Now, a few other stats and figures and interesting things you might want to know about this guy before you get into it. This guy, when you pick him up, he's a little heavy. Now, that's because this guy could actually, this LaserCube, can be run off battery powered or off of hardwired power. Okay, it's got a power port here on the back, and you're actually able to run this, as I just did throughout this whole review, on battery power. How cool is that? You're able to use this, and really one of the big selling points of this guy is not only for a typical stage show, but also for special promotions. Maybe you've got a client or you know someone who would hire you to come out and write something on the side of a building. Or maybe you would go ahead and at some sort of event, you would do a laser projection. The possibilities on a backdrop, on a ceiling, whatever. The possibilities really are endless, and it's really cool what you can do with a unit like this. Now, it's also worth noting while we're here that when you do purchase this, most of the LaserCube kits come with every accessory that you need to get started. The LaserCube itself mounts on a tripod style mount. And in the kit that I was sent, it came with a ball head and a mini tripod, okay? It also came with the ability to have a quick clamp here that can clamp to small diameter pipes, okay, basically with this jaw, and then thread on to the tripod here. It also comes with this case. Nice case that holds your unit. It's a soft case that has a piece of foam in it to hold the unit, has a spot for all the cables, okay? There also are a variety of lenses that go with the LaserCube. These lenses include a fisheye lens that mounts onto the front to be able to project really close to something. And then there are also a variety of lenses that I'm going to try out and show you here in this next portion that allow you to basically abstract the laser, to be able to get kind of blurry and fuzzy and cool kaleidoscopy type projections. Last, there are also in the package a pair of laser goggles, which you want to use. Not only are they cool and stylish, but you want to use them anytime that you might be exposing your eyes to the laser. Again, you want to avoid that whenever you're setting up a laser, but sometimes you might be nearby it. Better safe than sorry. Use the glasses. Now, it's worth noting as we get into this software, we get into all these different patterns, and we're going to be using it throughout this review, that there really are two types of uses for a laser in a live show. And you're probably familiar with this. The first is like this. We've got laser projections happening on a surface, okay? So that's where the audience looks at the output of the laser, what it's shining upon. The other way that we can use lasers is for mid-air type effects, right? To actually have effects shooting through the air with haze or even preferably fog for lasers being what the laser lights up. We'll show you both of those and how they look with the LaserCube throughout this video. All right, so as I just mentioned, we're here in Laser OS and we're looking at this video as well that's live in sync with the recording of the software. And to begin, I've just got the laser pointed at a surface, so we're looking at this surface projection of what the laser can do, and we can also see it through the air. Now, in this example, the surface is a black backdrop, just a black fabric, and it shows up incredibly nicely. You can see, that's one of the big benefits here is there's so many within this program, so many different things we can grab really quick and just show you all of these different looks that we can put onto a surface. Not only that, but there's all these dancers and a lot of these react to sound as well, which is super cool. You're totally able to do that. There's various animations as well for all sorts of things. And you can see that you can really customize these things just by messing with the coloring. You can go ahead and change the zoom of it, make it really small, make it really big. You can rotate it, which is huge. That's one of the big benefits of this platform, actually, is able to, even if you haven't hung your laser flat, you can fix it with the rotate, and there's other settings in the settings menu as well to work with that. But what I wanted to draw you to here as well is the ability to really customize this. So if you are shooting a laser at a surface to do a traditional laser type show, we can go ahead and there's a lot we can do to customize it. So we could bring in text here. As we can see here, we've got learn stage lighting. We can also draw pictures. So you could draw whatever you wanted, literally draw it on your screen or what have you. And then you're able to play that. Boom. It's on the laser. Done. Shift the color, whatever. And you've got something cool. Kind of like those things kids play with. What are those called? I think they're called boogie boards, they call them. So there's a lot that this guy can do in the sense of projections. We can put a clock up, for example. Super cool. We can also go ahead, and I want to show you guys these games in here. This might not be applicable to a lot of things, but there's all these games in here that you can actually go and say I make it full screen here. And you can literally play these games. They're actually playable with your laser, with the controls of your computer, which I think is pretty hilarious. And, for the hobbyist, that's a lot of fun. Not necessarily something that applies to the stage, but it's cool. Let's look for a minute. So there's all sorts of different images in here that you've got here. And let's just look for a minute at how this looks on the wall. So obviously, thus far, we've been looking at this unit. We've got some fog in the room. I'm getting a little more in right now. And we're looking at it in a pretty dark space. So let me turn on a pretty bright LED par and just show you how it impacts the look. And so this is where lasers really get their impact. Is like, okay, before it's like we were looking at stuff, it was cool. But when I bring this LED par into things, we can now see, okay, wow, this is where you can start to see how this laser image cuts through other stage light really well, really, really well. It allows you to, have a bright light on. This is the gamma starburst par at a full brightness on this red amber kind of feel. And it doesn't really take away from the impact on stage. Let me move the par around a little just to show you. So here I'm literally pointing the par literally at the laser, at the projection. And the laser just laughs, both on video and to the naked eye. The laser's like, I got this. Let me take this now. Let's pretend, for example, that the laser's in front of the band and we've got some backlights shooting up from where the projection is. And so I've now got this par basically shooting through the air opposite of this laser at a very bright brightness. And we can see on camera, there's a little bit of a halo that we see, a little bit of a brightness from the par. But to the eye, we can still see everything from the laser. Now, let's look at quickly the other type of laser projection. In fact, the kind we see most often in a live show. And that is the beam show type laser. So I'm going to click this guy over to beam show. And there's a lot of cool stuff in here. We'll just go with this octafan. And then I'm going to move my laser, okay? So it's firing opposite of the camera. Now remember, whenever we're using lasers and cameras and human eyes, cameras and human eyes do not want to be hit by lasers. It will damage them immediately. Okay, so be very careful. Always follow the safety instructions that come with your laser, and make sure to familiarize yourself and follow any local laws and regulations governing the use of lasers. More on that later. So my goal with this look here is just to show you how this really cuts through on these beam shows through lighting. So I've got this LED bar, again, still up at full. The red and amber channels are at full on this guy, and it's a 7x18 watt par. And it's pointed, they're both actually pointed basically towards the stage. So the laser maybe is shooting across the middle of the stage and above the audience per se, as the camera would be. And the par is basically a backlight pointed at the stage, okay? And we can see as we switch between these different animations and such, both in camera and to the eye, as long as we've got haze in the air, as long as we got some atmosphere, in this case a light fog, you can see we can really see the laser projection. And it looks awesome. It looks so cool. And that's what I love about this, is like, okay, for the cost of a decent kind of mid-grade, you know, maybe entry-level pro moving light, you can have this laser that can cut through way brighter than a moving light. And I think that's a point worth sending home. The LaserCube itself, just to run through things, it has full analog color, which means that it dims all of its colors fully. So you can really make any color that you want with it. You can see that in this interface. Now let's go ahead. One of the ones that I like here are the abstracts, because you can customize them. So say we go ahead. I like to hit randomize because it just gets you started. And you can start to make a projection here. Okay. Now the cool thing about these different projections is you can go ahead, you can customize them, you know, do what you want with them. You know, maybe you get everything looking the way you want. Maybe you want to use something like this. And you say, okay. I like what I see there. That looks super rad in the air and would look good in one of my songs. And now in Laser OS, I just hit save. Now it's in my playlist under abstracts. I can right click on my playlist here. I can access the things that I just saved. That was the one I just saved. Then I could go ahead, just for the quick tutorial, I could right click, go to assign hotkey, boom, press a hotkey on my keyboard, or go ahead and press MIDI at that point, which is how I use DMX through the program Show Cockpit, as I mentioned. Boom, and then we've got laser. That's simple. Part of your show, record it in. You can now save it in your lighting cues, trigger them, whatever you want to do. It's really that simple. It's really that stinking cool. So what'd you think? Pretty cool, huh? The LaserCube is really interesting to me. It's one that I've been watching for a while because it first came to market, wasn't available in the US, but now it is. And as we talk about the legality of lasers, as I talked about that in my other video, in the US you've got to have a variance, and they're not always easy to get by yourself. Now the really cool thing about this is I agreed to review this product and everything, you know, a month or so ago. And at that time, in the US, it wasn't really easy or legal to get a LaserCube and get a variance and be able to use it. And that's a big stumbling point because this thing is super cool if you're playing text or images or stuff through the air. It's really cool to use, but if we can't use it legally, then it's kind of pointless. The great thing that happened in the middle that I was completely unaware of till I started testing this the other day is that my friends at XLaser are actually distributing this in the US. And so that means that when you buy a LaserCube through XLaser, you can get a variance kit to get your laser variants added on. In fact, I think they're including it, and we'll check on that, and we'll link to their page below. Now, the big question as we get to the bottom of this and look at this dancing man over here is, should you add a laser like this to your light show? Because it's really simple to use, really simple to hook up, really easy to get started. And so now the question comes, does it make sense? Well, I would say it's not for everybody, but if you like the look of these really cool laser projectors, and this one's a sound active mode, that's why I was clapping. If you like the look of how these projections work, and or you have fog or haze in the air and you love that mid-air projection look, a laser, as I've always said, can be a great addition to a show. If you've got a small to moderate sized lighting rig, maybe you've got 3, 4, 6 moving heads, you've got some pars and stuff, and you're really looking for something that's going to add that extra punch. Now, the LaserCube is perfect for that. It's really great. It's not for everybody, but if you're looking for that extra punch in a venue, a small to mid-sized club, then the LaserCube is right for you. And in fact, X-Laser sells the 2-watt version, which is even brighter than the one that they sent me to review and looks even nicer. Still using the same software and all that. Now, the final question as we wrap this up here, I know this is a lot because there really is a lot within this unit, and we're going to be using it more here in the future on Learn Stage Lighting. The final question that I often get is, okay, how do I control this thing with DMX? Because we're lighting people, right? And so how does one control this with DMX? Well, I don't have time to go fully into this here, but what I did was, for the purposes of this review, I actually triggered Laser OS via MIDI. Now, I did that by converting ArtNet to MIDI using a program called Show Cockpit, and we'll link to that below. It's actually pretty straightforward to set up, and if you want to know more about that, let me know in the comments below, and I will shoot a video on how I set that up and how you can control the LaserCube via DMX through the MIDI control. When you do that, you get full live control of this unit, of the LaserCube, all within your show, all via DMX. Awesome. I hope this review helps you to understand what the LaserCube is, how it works, and how it can make your light show really hop to a new level. As I mentioned before, it's really for those people that have some lights already, possibly, and you want to add more. There's a lot of functionality under the hood, and it's really easy to get started with something like the LaserCube. And so check it out. Check out the links below that I've mentioned. And if this is something you're interested, you want to see more about, stay tuned, because coming up soon in September, after we're recording this, it'll be September 2020, we're going to do a whole month on lasers. And I want you to check it out. I want to show you how this stuff works and how to make a great laser show with your lighting. I'll see you guys there. Thanks.